Stewart gets in, fights for more yardage. Stewart to the mouth of the goal line. Touchdown!
Wow, that's just pure Stewart right there.
That's a big-time run by Jonathan Stewart.
Welcome to Believe in Carolina Panthers here on Believe Podcast Networks. Do you believe? Rate and subscribe the show on all major podcast platforms and subscribe to our social media channels on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Video available weekly at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Do you believe?
And welcome into a special edition of Believe in Panthers here on Believe Podcast Networks. You can find the video exclusively on the Believe YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Believe. Of course, the audio is on all major podcast platforms. The gang's all here. Got all my boys in the building. Schuyler, Callihan, new Papa in the house, Carolina Panthers Sports Illustrated beat writer and co-host of the show for the past couple of seasons is back in. And it's a great episode for him to be back in on. My main man, Jonathan Stewart in the house, all-time Panthers leading rusher. And, of course, I'm Desmond Johnson from Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Quick show today for everybody. We're going to do a mock top 10. We figured doing a whole first round was kind of for Panther fans. I mean, do you really want to know who's going to go number 20, 21? Like, we're just going to do top 10.
Shoot, it could be us.
It might be us, right? Exactly right. It could be us. So we're going to do a mock, and I'll say trades are allowed in our mock. So there's some smoke in terms of some teams maybe wanting to move up, some players maybe wanting to come down to a certain team. We'll get into all that and more here in just a bit. But first, Believe is doing this thing where they want to find out from our former players that are across all these different platforms and different shows that they have on the Believe NFL side, your best draft memory. Stu, give us your best draft memory. You were drafted in 2008 in the first round by the Carolina Panthers. What's the best draft memory that you can give us in terms of, I don't know, where you were? Were you actually at the draft? Were you at home? Were you with family? Like, what was the best draft memory of draft night for you?
So it was interesting because I was in a walking boot. So I had got surgery on my toe, had a toe situation. Going into the combine, going into this draft, and it was one of those things where I didn't necessarily know if I was going to get drafted in the first round. A lot of people on the networks were saying, "Oh, Jonathan, you're going to be, you might slip down to the second round with your surgery and everything." So, draft day, didn't get invited to the draft. So I was at the house in Washington State, Lacey, Washington. Shout out to y'all. And I was just there with family and friends, man. Just kicked back, relaxed, had a little cookout. And lo and behold, get a call from Carolina Panthers. And they said, let me retract. Got a call from my agent. And he said, "Hey, kiddo, how are you doing? Hang in there. Looks like we're going to have the Carolina Panthers call you." I'm like, "Call me? Like, as in draft me?" And my agent, Ben Dagra, is like, "Yeah, they're going to call you to draft you." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I remember my heart's racing. I'm in the backyard, just kind of pacing, staying away from everybody because it's nerve-wracking, man. Like, everybody's at your house. It was like a ton of people, but just my close peers and stuff like that. And the nerve-wracking piece of that is like, man, what if I don't get drafted and everybody has to sit with me while I don't get drafted? Right? Yeah. And I'm in a walking boot, so I feel like useless to a certain extent. But Carolina Panthers called me like, "Hey, Jonathan, nice to meet you. And we're going to draft you at 13th pick." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I just remember just kind of just blacking out. And next thing I know, I'm in the front of the house on our carport, and I hear a loud noise coming from my house, and it was the draft. So everybody saw it happen while I was on the phone.
Oh.
And they were like, "Oh,
yeah."
So I wasn't in the house and next to a TV. I was on the phone with a rep from the Carolina Panthers, going over what jersey number I wanted and all those types of things. And
Man,
once I hung up that phone, everybody was just like, I turn around and everybody's like in my driveway and just kind of looking at me. And I turn around and I said, I'm a Carolina Panther. And they were like, "Grr!" So I lived in this, I lived in a duplex in this cul-de-sac, and everybody in the neighborhood came out because everybody was invested and watched the draft that day. And it was basically a cul-de-sac party. After that, had the news cameras there, certain few that I messed with during that time. And then a couple of my college teammates, because that was the same day as our spring ball. And so my teammates hit me up afterwards, like, man, congrats. It's a good feeling, dude, because you're basically the example of what it's supposed to look like. And I really pride myself in doing things the right way when I play football. Being certain places on time, doing all the work, and just being coachable, and staying out of trouble, all those types of things, and be able to share those moments with my mom, my brother, my best friend Jaron, my best friend Andy, my youth pastor Cecil Daniels, your circle, your counsel, the people that get you to, that got you, like Cecil Daniels drove me to college on my first day of college.
man.
So like youth pastor, taking me to college and having this full circle moment with, people that helped you get to where you are, a special moment. But yeah, it was dope. It was dope.
Did you have a lot of contact with Carolina before you found out you were going to be a Carolina Panther?
I did not. It was very sketchy. So
that's what I want to know, because I'm thinking back at the time they just drafted D'Angelo 2 years prior. Yeah. So like you probably thought in your head, no, Carolina. I mean, they just drafted D'Angelo in the first round like 2 years ago, and then you get the call from Carolina when they hadn't even been. One
of the head scouts came to Oregon during Oregon's pro day, and I'll remind you, I was in a walking boot, so I wasn't doing anything. I didn't participate in pro day, but they came in town. My agent said, hey, go to this hotel. They want to meet you at this hotel, the Carolina Panthers. So I went and had this one meeting with them that I didn't even meet them at the combine, right? I met with Coach Skip, but it was just basically to talk about, his son, who was coaching at Washington State at the time, running backs coach. But other than that, I had no interaction, no nothing. But hindsight, Bob Anderson did my surgery, which was Carolina Panthers team doctor.
So they knew.
And so they knew my situation better than everybody else.
See, it's a little small thing.
So basically them coming to check in on me was basically to check to see what my spirits were like, probably to see if I was, still in my walking booth, making sure I'm doing the right things to recover and heal up from the surgery that I had on my toe. But in the moment, you're not thinking about any of that. It's just all hitting you at 1,000 miles per hour, especially back then when there wasn't Instagram or, right. X to basically read up on yourself at any given moment. So,
and I asked that last bit there because I noticed the Panthers did not watch Jalen Walker's workout at Georgia in the last week or whatever. Well, there was a couple of Georgia prospects that we've been linked to over there. Schuyler, any smoke to that at all in terms of them not being there? Because based off what we just heard, they don't necessarily have to be at all these places to pick the guy that they want, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't read too much into it. I mean, there's been several times where Jonathan just said, like, you never hear a team attached to a certain player, and then all of a sudden on draft night, they're the one calling their name. So, like, I think by now a lot of these teams have their homework done, and some of those could just be, like he said, just checking in, seeing where they're at. And I know it's a workout and stuff, but a lot of these guys, like I said, they have their homework done. They know what kind of kids that they are, what they're going to get in them if they draft them. So I wouldn't expect to read too much into that. So I think really it's just going to come down to, what options are on the table at this point. They know what Jalen Walker that's the case. They know it. If it's Ted McMillan, if it's Mason Graham, whoever it may be. So no, I wouldn't read too much into it.
All right, let's get into it because I was trying to get us in and out, but like 30, 35 minutes so people could watch it during their lunch breaks or whatnot up into Thursday. The first round of NFL draft is Thursday, I think 7 p.m. starting on ESPN. I'm ready to finally hear those wonderful chimes.
Dun, dun.
So we're going to use that for each one of these picks that we have going forward. We've drawn up the top 10. Of course, the Panthers are picking at 8 as it stands right now. And the way we'll do this, we'll just kind of collectively kind of talk through who we think the needs are of that team and who we think they're going to pick based off of projections from everybody and what Schuyler's been hearing and, everybody else. Of course, the Tennessee Titans are picking number 1. This one seems like it's been a lock for a couple of months now. I can't figure out why, because I don't think Cam Ward was that much better than the other quarterbacks that are at the top of this draft. You think a trade might happen here for Tennessee?
Carolina Panthers going all the way up to number 1. Get out of
Oh no. No. There's the Bears still have our second round pick, the last pick from out of the Bryce Young deal. That's this year. They're picking early in the second from off of our second round pick. We did pick up a second from trading with the Rams last year during the draft. So we do have a second, but it's like pick, I think 57. So we got to wait from 8 to 57 before we pick again. That looks like Dan Morgan territory. Like something's going to happen in that little straight. He's not going to sit around till 10 o'clock on Friday before he picks again after picking in the first.
You may go back a few spots and then you still get another top 50 pick. That's
you know what? I'm leaning more towards me and Steve were joking about it while you were gone. We've had the voice of Schuyler Callihan in our heads just saying depth. So like we're all about bodies. Like this year, like we need bodies. Like we've learned our lesson.
If you think about it, all these teams that are going to be coming up, it's going to get pretty pricey. If Shedeur Sanders and Ashton Genty fall, that's going to be Dan Morgan's dream scenario if they fall to 8, because he's going to have a bunch of teams calling for him. If there's a team that needs a quarterback, they're going to want to jump ahead of New Orleans because maybe not Shedeur Sanders, but maybe Jackson Dart. So that's the two names. If you're Panthers fans this weekend, you want those two guys to continue to fall. But if you trade back 3 or 4 spots, you're picking up an extra top 50 pick. So that's why I think it's completely on the table.
I want them to trade it, but let's see what we come up with here. Tennessee, are we putting Cam Ward number 1? Is he the number 1 pick this year in the NFL draft?
I think so.
Yeah. All right, so Cam Ward from Miami, quarterback. It's going to the Tennessee Titans. To me, it starts getting interesting at 2. Cleveland. They have a situation. They have a situation called Deshaun Watson, and they created the situation a couple years ago, but it's just progressively gotten worse. They
got Joe Flacco.
Don't they still have? No, Jameis Winston's in New York now.
They got Joe Flacco now.
They should have kept Jameis. To be honest, I think Jameis would have been just fine in Cleveland, but it feels like they're kind of going all in on defense. Joe Flacco is how old? 30. Man,
listen.
40.
He old.
This is what I'm trying to tell y'all. The value of these picks, these players in this draft, they're not bad players. But all I'm saying is if this was last year's draft, a lot of these guys are 5th or 4th best at each position. And so given that, you darn right you in a situation if you're the Cleveland Browns, because you're not supposed to take no quarterback. You're supposed to take Travis Hunter.
Right.
And so you better do the right thing, knowing that these listen, Cam Ward's gone. The other 2 quarterbacks, they're going to drop. And everybody in the league knows that they're going to drop.
You know what?
And you know why? And you know why? Because there's a plethora of defensive linemen and edge guys that are going to get swapped up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And because and that's basically because that's the cream of the crop in this draft. So if you're going to take the best guy available type situation, ain't no quarterback.
No, it should be Travis Hunter, and he does so much.
You might get fired. One of these organizations might fire you if you sound off and go for a quarterback for the value that you giving it up for.
You better make sure you know what you're doing. Ask Nico over in Dallas, the Dallas Mavericks GM. You better make sure. You better make sure you know what you're doing before you. And then don't come tell us you didn't know what you were doing when you did it.
You didn't know. You better get fired then.
I know how much Luka meant to the franchise. Cleveland, are we Travis Hunter, or do you think they take a swing at a quarterback here? Because everything you just said is correct, Stu, but it's still Cleveland. Like they're still prone to do Cleveland things. So like
they like doing bad things, huh?
Yeah, like that. Jackson Dart could go right here. Like, you know, like seriously, we'd be like, what? Like,
what do you think? What do you think, Schuyler?
What do you think, Schuyler?
My 2 cents is if I'm Cleveland, I'm trading that pick because everybody that is desperate for a quarterback is going to be willing to jump. And even if it's not for that, you got teams that want to move up for Abdul Carter. I would trade back, get extra draft capital, maybe move down 3 or 4 spots. You're still going to get an elite player, at least in the top 6 or 7. And that's what I would do. But if I'm staying
from the top 10 you think somebody from the top 10 might trade up with Cleveland?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely think so. Abdul Carter is somebody that everybody wants outside of Cam Ward. And I would say if I'm Cleveland, I'd take Abdul Carter. Could you imagine Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett?
Yeah.
I mean,
or what if you but if you have Myles Garrett and then you have a generational corner possibly to be able to lock it up on defense, period. You got a pass rush.
Yeah.
That's basically saying you better get rid of that ball in 2 seconds because I'm coming. And then now you got a guy that's a ball hawk that has ball skills that can take it the distance and score on defense. I mean,
it's a good problem.
It's a good problem to have. You're right.
Travis Hunter sells tickets though.
I would go Abdul Carter, but if I'm projecting what they'll do, I think they take Travis.
What do you think, Stu?
I think they take Travis.
Okay, so we'll Travis Hunter at 2. Wide receiver / cornerback.
Because Cleveland got what? A second? They got an early second round pick?
Yeah. They'll be picking towards the top of the second.
So
that,
I mean,
that could be where one of these quarterbacks go.
That's where they can go find, Dart or Shador.
Jalen Milroe's been getting a lot of smoke.
Milroe,
yeah, Milroe from Alabama's beginning. I've been seeing Milroe creep into the first
Milroe,
now.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing him attached to the Giants and the Steelers. But the Giants at 3.
That's way out of there. But I've seen some people here in the last couple of days say Tyler Shuck is some team's number 1 quarterback in his class. I have no idea why, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Michael Penix Jr. 2.0 this year. Some quarterbacks none of us are talking about. And we talked a little bit about Penix last year that we liked him, but we didn't think he was going to get drafted in the top 10. Like nobody expected Atlanta after they just gave Kirk Cousins $100 million. We were like, what? And then it went down, but I don't know if anybody's going to pull that off. The Giants need a quarterback. They have a quarterback room, and it's full. They got 3 guys in there. The problem is, I think, and I got talked in this listen and talk radio the past couple of days. We watched the GM of the Giants kind of last year during that Hard Knocks season just kind of destroy the roster with the way he handled Saquon Barkley's contract and everything else. The league probably looks at him a little differently now. I know the 3 of us look at him a little differently now. Do Daboll and that GM, do they have enough time to nurture and build a rookie quarterback? Because it feels like they got to win now. Like if they don't win this year, they might not be employed next year. So would they use that pick on a quarterback? And if they don't, that kind of opens it up. Abdul Carter is sitting there. Do you take Abdul Carter at 3? Because at that point, he's the best on the board still, right?
I'm taking Mason Graham if I'm them.
Yep. I'm right there with you because you already got Kayvon Thibodeau and you got Brian Burns. You need somebody on the interior to blow that thing up. That's why I said fit-wise, I think Cleveland would be in more of need of Abdul Carter. The Giants would probably need Travis Hunter more, but I like Mason Graham there too.
Okay, that's interesting. So I haven't seen him pegged to the Giants. So we already got a little fireworks going on in our mock draft here. So you got Cam Ward going 1 to Tennessee. We've got Travis Hunter going number 2 to Cleveland. Mason Graham, the DT from Michigan, going to the Giants. Number 4, the New England Patriots. They have their quarterback in Drake May. Would they go O-line or do you think they go defense? Because they need a lot of defense too. They need a lot of everything.
They need receivers. They need a center. They need a guard. They need a tackle. But the problem is all those needs, as far as the value goes in this draft,
too rich.
It ain't there. It's just it's just not it. So you either gonna have to just die by the sword, and just say at least we getting the best of the crop of this year, or we trade out. If I'm New England, I'm trading out. I'm trading up.
They need a trade partner to trade out though, because everything you just said. Why is somebody going to trade up for? There's nothing there. So like,
there's something there, but as far as their needs go, that it's not there for them.
Yeah.
Right. They need four. They need 4 offensive linemen.
Somebody help my man Drake May, please. Like, please help him stand up right.
They need offensive linemen, and I'm just saying you can get that value later, and so you can receive more by trading back, and you can still get what you need.
Abdul Carter.
I was going to say Abdul Carter's still sitting there. I was going to say Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU. They need offensive linemen. They just drafted Drake May last year. You want to protect your investment. Do you go O-line or do you start trying to build the defensive line? Abdul Carter's still sitting there. Like, is Abdul Carter going to be the one that falls? Because he's falling right now. Like in our draft.
I'll go with them getting Abdul. They don't need him, but go ahead and get him.
You think they do that over Campbell? Because Campbell's pretty much the consensus top tackle in this draft.
But
right?
yeah, that's where I'm saying like he's a top tackle, but he's like number 5 if this was last year.
True.
Years previous.
Campbell's like a 15 to 20 range type of guy.
So you don't think they'd be reaching? They'd be reaching if they got him at 4. Let's do okay. So we'll go with Abdul Carter. So Abdul Carter going to the Patriots. That Mike Vrabel will love that first-year head coach over at New England to try. to
Vrabel there too. I forgot. I wasn't thinking about him in the moment. Yeah, he would love that.
Yeah, I think he'll go defense. Jacksonville Jaguars at 5. They need like
everything.
Yeah, they need why? Like, why do they need every? I'm sitting there thinking about. I'm like, they were just in the playoffs like 2 years ago, weren't they? Like, we've said this before on this program.
Life comes at you fast, man.
Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in the NFL. Like, he's always like ranked number 14, 15, 16, but he's got the pedigree. He was the number 1 overall pick just a couple years ago. I don't think Urban Meyer broke him. I think he's the stuff in front of him is he needs more. What that is, I don't know. Do you see an offensive player come off the board here?
I see a tight end.
Ooh. Well, if it's a tight end, it's probably going to be the Warren kid from Penn State, right?
Yeah, Tyler Warren.
That's a name I've seen attached to us. If he fell, that they might kick the tires on too. But I'm like, we've got like 5 tight ends. Like, I don't know if they would spend a first-round pick on one. But what do you say, Schuyler? Would you go tight end here for Jacksonville as well? Get some help for Trevor Lawrence, or are you looking someplace else?
I think they could get Warren by waiting just a little bit, but this is where Jacksonville's probably kicking themselves because they are the team that probably needs Mason Graham the most.
I
think this is a trade back because Mason Graham's not there.
Maybe they're a team that trades up.
Yeah, they could be. They very well could be.
So you're thinking they might try to go defense and maybe trade up a couple spots to get either Carter or Graham before the Giants or the Patriots? I could see that.
My only thing is that they got Evan Ingram, the tight end from last year for Jacksonville, he departed, right? So they need, as a quarterback, if you're going to your offensive coordinator, you're saying, look, I need someone to throw to if someone's coming after me.
I think I got a trade proposal. I want to see what you guys think.
Okay.
So Vegas is on deck here, right?
Yep.
They've been mocked for Ashton Genty for weeks. Dallas needs a running back really bad. They could jump ahead, go from 12 up to 5. Jacksonville could slide to 12. Tyler Warren still may be there. I would say Dallas could throw their first, and then let's see. They got the number 44 pick, and then maybe you could throw another 2 in there or another 1, whatever you want to do. Go up. Dallas gets number 5. They take Ashton Genty. Jacksonville falls to 12. They skip ahead of Vegas.
I was about to say, what would stop Jacksonville from drafting Genty? They need him in everything, don't they?
I think they still believe in ETN.
Yeah, ETN's a good back.
Okay.
They just haven't been able to find any rhythm on offense, and that's like an offensive coordinator putting his guys in position to win type thing. Huh?
And I don't see any wide receivers in this draft that are deserving to go at number 5 overall. I know there's a lot of smoke with Ted McMillan and us at 8, and I think that's a reach for us to go. When we just gave up the most points in NFL history on defense, and we've got half the fan base wanting us to go get a wide receiver. I'm like, how does that help us stop anybody? Like, that doesn't help us at all. Like, we're just going to be in shootouts like all year, like we were the last 5 games of this past year. Is that something, Stu, that is that something you might be interested in? A trade with Dallas and Jacksonville. Dallas moves up to 5 because the Raiders have been, like you said, the Raiders have been mocked to Genty. They'd have to get ahead of them to get a shot if the Raiders are in fact going to get Genty. If that's who they want, they're probably going to have to get up to 5. Do you want to put it in Dallas moves up to 5 and takes Genty, or you want to?
I mean, you never know because you got a new organization, you got a new leader in the organization with the Raiders, right? And with Pete Carroll, Pete Carroll might be looking for his Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that Ashton Genty is a Marshawn Lynch because beast mode.
That would be an yes.
There's only one beast mode. But I mean, I'm down with that. But it's just the need. You got to look at the needs. What do the Las Vegas Raiders really need? Right? They need wide receivers. They need cornerbacks. They need like interior guys to stop people. And I'm speaking from a place of I don't want Ashton Genty to go to a place that isn't prepared to receive him.
You don't want to see a Saquon situation.
Yes.
Because that's what would happen if he went to some place like who's the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders?
Gino.
Gino. Okay. I could see, I mean, when all these guys, our guys, and everybody was in Seattle, they did keep a platoon of running backs. Remember like Rashard Penny, they had like a bunch of running backs at one point.
Does Vegas get a little worried and move up one spot for Genty? Like
to the Patriots?
No. I'm saying does Vegas move from 6 to 5?
Trade with Jags.
Jacksonville. Well, I don't think that's. I don't think that would happen. I don't think that's. I think it would be somebody jumping Vegas.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And Dallas seems to be the one, or the Saints. I've seen the Saints attached to Genty too, and they're picking at 9. But the Saints have other issues going on. We'll get to them in just a bit. What are we deciding here for the Jags? Because it seems like it's going to be centered around Genty and somebody coming up for him, or the Jags moving down for something else. Yeah, or who?
Or they stay put and take Tyler Warren earlier.
Right. Yeah. So it's either they take Tyler Warren or they trade out and whoever moves up picks Genty. Which one do you think would be more likely? Dallas doesn't seem to be that aggressive.
Maybe they've been chilling because they knew they was about to get active in this draft. Who knows?
They will make moves for playmakers, as we've seen in years past with CeeDee Lamb and
Dallas will.
They will give up. I don't know what the price would be. Maybe it's number 12 and a future first and something else. I don't know, but move up 7 spots for a running back. I mean, I don't know. That's tough.
There was something else that popped up too that I didn't think of that people started mentioning. Remember a couple years ago when Houston did that thing? They traded back into the 3rd pick and got was it Will Anderson? After they just picked 2nd, and we were like, how in the world did Houston move back up to 3? I've seen people say Cleveland has enough collateral to get back to the top 10, and they would draft Shedeur. So like they would get Travis Hunter at 2 and Shedeur at like 5 or 6 or whatever, and pair them both with Cleveland. I was like, you know what? That would sell tickets, which is Cleveland's MO, and gives them their quarterback of the future. And I could see that work. And you keep that Shedeur Travis dynamic together going into the pros. Now, I don't know what it would take for them to move up.
They're in salary cap hell. So
yeah, I think the Deshaun Watson situation is kind of killing it. So I don't know. So I guess it comes down to, did they take the tight end from Penn State or do they trade it off to Dallas?
We'll let you make the call. I'll let you make the call.
I'm kind of like, I'm just thinking about, you're right that Dallas has been aggressive when it comes to getting the skill players they want. So that would fit this, but to
this
move up.
All boils down to the New York Giants, right? If the Giants don't take Mason Graham, and they take somebody else,
Graham's going to
then Graham's going to Jacksonville. Yeah.
Okay. So, but with him on ours with the Giants, I'm gonna. You know what? I think that's where Tyler Warren goes because I'm looking at the teams behind here, and I think that's where Warren goes. I'm comfortable putting Tyler Warren at 5.
I think we can go ahead and Sharpie Genty to Vegas.
Yeah. So Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State. That's gonna be 2 Penn State players taken in the top 10 of the draft. And then you got the Las Vegas Raiders. That would, I would imagine, be Ashton Genty at that point, unless they trade out of it themselves. We'll put Genty at 6. And shout out to everybody on X who back in January was clowning me when I first brought up the idea that Ashton Genty is going to be a top 10 pick and was like, would you kick the tires on him at 8 if you're Carolina? They took that to mean I love Ashton Genty. I want Ashton Genty as a Carolina Panther. Forget everything else I say for the next 3 months. And I'm like, no, I'm just saying the dude is made out of granite. Like, he's going to be in the top 10 by the time we get to this draft. Lo and behold, he's getting mocked in the middle of the top 10. Here, coming out of Boise State, the Heisman Trophy winner.
He still could slide, though.
He could. And if he's sitting there at 8, Schuyler, let me ask you this because I've asked you this before. If Ashton Genty is sitting there at 8 and we're at 8 and can't find anybody to trade with us, would Dan Morgan draft Ashton Genty? Knowing what we know, that he just gave Chuba Hubbard money. They just drafted Jonathan Brooks last year, but you don't know how that's going to turn out. Ashton Genty won the Heisman Trophy.
Got Rico Dowdle.
I don't think so. Because I still think, even though he hasn't played much yet, they still really believe in Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah,
and they have Chuba Hubbard. They just paid him. They brought in Rico Dowdle. I think you invested a second-round pick in a running back a year ago. You invested money into extending your starting running back. You don't want to, and no offense here, Stu, but like, you don't want to be investing into the running back room in 3 different ways. So I think you need to be careful there. If you're picking in the top 10, the team that needs a ton of defensive players, you got to take the defensive guy or trade back. So if Genty, this is the scenario that's starting to pan out here. If Genty and Sanders make it to 8, Carolina could very well trade back.
Trade back, yeah.
Yep. And that's kind of what we want to do. We're at the Jets at number 7. I think
I can tell you a team that could utilize a running back. Chicago Bears.
Yeah. Who is their court? Yeah, they need some kind of mark.
Swift is their running back, right?
Yeah. They need another guy to pair with him. I think Swift would work better in a tandem.
And just in general, the Bears have an opportunity to do some real interesting things and prepare themselves for success.
Yeah, let's see what they do.
I'm looking at the guys. So you got Dallas that needs a running back, Chicago that needs a running back, Dolphins could use another running back.
You got what's his name?
Pittsburgh maybe moving off of Najee, or don't feel comfortable about him.
Who?
Some holes too. Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, they moved on from Najee.
Oof! If Najee's not there anymore?
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's in LA. He's in
Detroit. Yeah. Oh my gosh!
So,
the Steelers somehow end up with Ashton Gentry. Why is it always the Steelers when we're doing the show? Like, if the Steelers get this, oh my gosh, or the Steelers get that, then it's going to be a problem. The Jets at 7. I think this is where offensive tackle comes off the board finally. And I would actually between.
The Commanders could use a running back. They have Eckler. They have a committee.
Yeah.
But like, as far as like generational talent,
would they trade up for one though? Like, would they trade up for a Gentry? I think
defensive minded coach.
I think Washington's, they're going to look for more defense, like on the edge. Like, they need more stuff out there. The Jets, I think this is where Will Campbell comes off the board from LSU. I see him. I was going to say the other guy, Mimbu from Missouri. Would you think he would go before Campbell?
I think Campbell's probably the better prospect, but I think Mimbu's more fitted for the Jets.
Okay. Yeah. So Aaron Glenn, new head coach there. Who's the? It's not Aaron Rodgers. Who's the quarterback of the New York Football Jets?
That would be Justin Fields.
That's Justin Fields, baby.
Oh, that's right. So it might make sense to put some protection in front of him. So let's go I'll go with that. Are you cool with that?
Members right tackle, and they've got Olu Fashanu at left tackle, so they don't need a left tackle. They need a right tackle.
Okay, so Will Campbell's still on the board then. That's interesting because we're next, and I'm gonna put it in Armand Mimbu, OT, Missouri. So just to recap before we do the Panthers pick, Tennessee Titans, we've got Cam Ward going number 1 to Tennessee, Travis Hunter going number 2 to Cleveland, Mason Graham going to number 3 to the Giants, Abdul Carter going 4 to the Patriots, Tyler Warren going 5 to Jacksonville, Ashton Gentry going 6 to the Raiders, Armand Mimbu going number 7 to the Jets, and that brings up the Carolina Panthers. And there's a couple of names still on the board here. I wasn't expecting Will Campbell to still be there at 8. Taylor Moton does not have a contract after this year, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Schuyler? Isn't he on his last year of his deal?
He is.
There you go.
I don't think he would take, again, Campbell playing on the right side. I don't know. I think you wait. I think you wait.
The talent level there is just not. We're not desperate. We have the highest paying offensive line in the National Football League.
Yeah, I saw about a lot. I saw that the other day. Like they're paying like $90 million on the
So if we're looking to provide depth, you find depth in the depth of the draft.
So we've been on record saying that they got to go defense. We're not supposed to do need at this point, but the Panthers have to go defense with this pick if they don't trade out of it. So far, we've kind of done this without trades. So let's just continue the last 3 without any trades. Who's out there? Who do you want the Panthers to take at 8?
There's a lot of ways we can go here.
I mean, I can start throwing names out. Of course, the usual suspects.
As far as edge, so if we're saying we need an edge guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's out there, in my opinion, Donovan Ezeraku, I think his name is, from Boston College. He was active. He had like almost 17 sacks, but he had like 20 something tackles for loss, right? So he was active at the line of scrimmage in the trenches. So finding someone that is disruptive, like whoever it is, that's what we really need. We need a guy that that's going to get after the quarterback, but is also going to be involved in sub packages, right? So being able to be on the field more than just the occasion of, okay, pin your ears back. He seems like he's a guy that can, find his way in between gaps and get in the backfield, stopping things before they start. And you see it on countless occasions on film. So I like Donovan Ezeraku. I like Mike Green, James Pierce, obviously. Just depends on, how they feel about them being in the locker room.
I can't pronounce.
I'm a huge, unless Mason Graham's there, which he ain't gonna be there.
I don't think he's gonna be at 8. But
I honestly think you just trade back because you can get these guys.
See that guy you mentioned, I wouldn't want him at 8, but I would gladly take him at 19. I'd take him at 18 or 21 or whatever. Same with Mike Green.
Yeah, Donovan Ezeraku.
I would take him then. Or James Pierce.
So these are all guys that are going to be available throughout this first portion of the draft, right? Like, first and second round, you're going to get yourself an edge guy. You don't need to worry about that, especially if you trade out of your pick. You can decide where your next pick is going to be almost. So,
is this where we do the trade? Because I think all 3 of us would rather than trade down than pick whatever. Because it doesn't seem like there's consensus dude that we want at 8 anyway.
I think Jalen Walker makes sense. I have my skeptics about it. I don't know that he's going to be long-term this like franchise changing, altering player. That's not saying he can't be. That's just my feeling is that at number 8, you would hope you could find that guy. If you stay put, I don't think they would go Jalen Walker despite everyone mocking him there. I think they'd maybe go Will Johnson, cornerback. I know it's not a flashy pick. It's not necessarily the biggest need on defense because you already have JC, you have Mike Jackson, but you get easily the best young duo cornerback in the league if you take Will Johnson there, and that's an obvious need too. So
yeah,
I think you straight back, but I think if you stay put,
that would be the only reason why you would stay put if you were going to get Will Johnson.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because I can see.
What about Malachi Starks?
I don't know if I like him at 8. I keep seeing people try to shoot one there.
I think you get him mid-first round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my fear with the Panthers pick. Now, that's what it's grown into is that it's going to be seen as a reach, whatever we pick at 8, because of the way this draft is. Well, it's going to become preference at a certain point, right?
Walter Nolan, probably another guy to watch out for. And he's somebody that I think Darren Gant may have said this the other day, that he wouldn't be shocked if they take him at 8. But I do think he's going to be somebody that goes much earlier than what everybody out there is projecting. You see that every year with a couple of guys. There's not a whole lot of interior defensive linemen that are going to have first-round grades. Somebody's going to need one. Walter Nolan may be that guy, maybe Carolina.
I just realized two things I just realized. We just named like 5 different players that we could pick at 8.
And they're all defensive guys.
They're all defensive dudes.
They're all defensive guys.
And I'm sitting there looking at the thing. There's only been one quarterback taken so far in our mock, and that's Cam Ward at 1. Everybody else.
Let's do a short trade right here.
Yeah. let's draft Shador. let's trade. That's where what happened with the trade. See, and that maybe because at this point, but also too, once you get past a certain point, you're going to get the teams that don't need quarterbacks. So it's like you really to get to like the Steelers at 21. Would the Steelers be content to just wait, like Bill Belichick style, and just see if he fell to them at 21 and then does like an Aaron Rodgers drop? Or it depends on how invested they are in Shador, I guess. But with our pick at 8, I like Johnson. For me, it'd probably either be Johnson or Walker, I guess, if we had to pick between the two. But see, even that, me saying I guess, I'm just kind of like.
There could be a situation where the Steelers and the Saints need to flock to get a quarterback before someone else does.
Yeah, because see, that's the trick. The Saints are right behind us at 9. It sounds like Derek Carr is not going to play this year with whatever his shoulder injury is that they're just now finding out. So the Saints now need a quarterback. So whoever would want Shador, who I assume is the number 2 rated quarterback in this class, would have to leapfrog the Saints to have a shot, which puts us into play. So
if Pittsburgh gets in on the conversations, like they're going to have to offer a massive deal for them to fall that far. But at the same time, what they offer is now going to drive up New Orleans' price astronomically, even though it's only one spot, because it's not about how far you're going up. You're just trying to outbid the other person or the other team now. So that would be super ideal if both teams fell in love with him and wanted to go get him. I don't get that sense. My Steelers people have told me they are not taking Shador Sanders. Mm-hmm. So
it could be the other guy. I think it's Jackson Dart.
Yeah. But you don't take him at 8, do you? Or do you have to? Maybe that's a better question. Do you have to go up to the top 10 to get Dart? Maybe you do.
I mean, if you're battling against a team that needs another quarterback,
maybe he's the Michael Penix Jr. of this draft.
Because unless Aaron Rodgers says, "Hey, I'm playing next year," which he hasn't said anything.
Even if he does, well, even if he does at this point, it's like,
you gotta have a guy. Maybe this is the Kirk Cousins situation.
It sounds like we're thinking they're going to trade it out. That's what I'm gathering here. That because we've Will Johnson, Mike Green, Jalen Walker, like those are the ones I guess we're okay with at 8. But it sounds like all 3 of us are like somebody's going to come up and trade with us. If it falls like the way I have it on here, where there's only been one quarterback taken off the board at this point, a quarterback needy team's going to try to jump the Saints to get to.
I'm thinking San Francisco could also trade up and get Will Campbell. Or
they did just have the dude retire.
Or maybe they come up and get Ted McMillan. I mean, they've got to replace.
We didn't talk about Ted. We haven't talked about Ted yet.
They need center, guard, right tackle or no left tackle.
They did. San Francisco did just re-sign Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator, so they might go defense.
I need cornerbacks, interior defenders, edge rushers.
I can see Will Johnson going there at 11 if they don't move out of it.
We've already did some business with them in the past.
Yeah. We haven't talked Ted McMillan with Carolina at 8, and that's the one who was getting a lot of smoke from the fan base that they wanted Ted. Are either one of you comfortable drafting Ted McMillan at 8?
No.
Okay. We won't even waste a lot of time on that because I'm like, I see it all the time. I'm like, Ted McMillan, I liked him better when his name was Xavier Legette last year. He's pretty much, it's a similar player, similar body type. Now, Ted is more of a jump ball kind of guy, and Xavier's more of a run underneath it kind of guy. He'll catch it with his body. Ted will catch it with his hands. But do you double dip like that in back-to-back drafts when you've got so many needs on defense? I just don't think that you're better off getting somebody from Georgia. Just get somebody from Georgia like the Eagles did.
I think this is – I mean, I think San Francisco makes a lot of sense here.
To trade up to us?
Yeah.
I can write that
They have a lot of needs.
Right.
I remember last year they had that whole fallout on defense. Remember? Like the linebacker didn't want to play.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He quit like in the middle of the game or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so they got some rebuilding that they got to do.
I mean, if you pick Will Campbell, you're flipping him from left to right. So I don't know that they would do that, but it could be for like a defensive player for sure.
I'm fine putting trade with the 49ers. They're picking 12th. So they wouldn't have to move up a whole lot to move up 4 spots. And Carolina probably gets up a second or something. Yeah. Or if we move down to 12, I could see us picking up Jalen Walker at 12. I could see Walker still on the board at 12 and getting
that would make him work.
Yeah,
I think we're capable of getting an edge rusher, D lineman, whatever you want, defense. You can get all that you want while also collecting some picks.
And there's no quarterbacks going. So are we saying trade with the 49ers?
Trade with whoever.
Trade. I'm putting trade. Just for the purposes of this, I'll put trade.
Because what's going to happen is they're going to get a ring, and they're going to be like, hello.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, what you talking about? That ain't enough. Click. And then we end up picking whoever we pick, right?
Right.
But if they pick up the phone, they say, oh, you going to give us that? Oh,
yeah, hey, give us a second. Give us a second.
Hey, boss. They said they're going to give us all that. And that's when we trade about.
That's all it takes. Like last year, we didn't expect the Rams to call us up to give us a second this year. Now, I assume Dan would want a draft pick in this draft. Well, maybe not. Maybe he just picks up additional high draft picks for next year and gets another second or something. I could see that happening. We're basically saying the Panthers are going to trade out of this pick. Just the way our board is landed. We don't know who it's going to be, but if they don't trade out of it, it sounds like Will Johnson is who we're thinking they might go after at 8. Is that what we're going to go with? So prefer to trade. If they have to keep it, Will Johnson. And I'm actually okay with that. I was with him earlier in the year, and I like the idea. When they re-signed JC, I was like, well, who could they put with him? Because I like Mike Jackson. He was a good QB too. But you put somebody like Will Johnson with JC, now you've got a situation where you've got 2 top-end cornerbacks in an NFC South where you've got teams that are throwing the ball all over the place. That might be something good because you can get all these other picks later on, especially if you're going to have these picks there. The Saints at 9. Is this where Shedeur goes?
I think it's still Dart over Sanders.
Yeah.
Wow. Jackson Dart. And that's Ole Miss, right? Shedeur's
the biggest knock on Shedeur outside of all of the narratives that surround him is he's not extremely mobile, and he doesn't have a big arm to compensate for it. You got to have one or the other, or in the best case scenario, both. He doesn't have that at all. So I think personally, this is just me speaking, I would have in a normal year, probably a 3rd round grade on Shedeur.
You don't have a 1st grade on Shedeur? Is that what you said?
I wouldn't. No, I mean, I would have him as a 3rd round grade. He's going to clearly go before that.
Kind of like Malik Willis from Liberty a couple of years ago.
It's crazy because Shedeur didn't throw for
this year's draft is very similar to the 2020 quarterback class, or whatever year that was, Pickett and Corral and all those guys.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really, really bad. But Sanders has had – wasn't he a Heisman finalist? Yeah. Did he get that far? And well, of course, Travis. And then, I feel like, and I've seen this a lot on First Take, where they're like, we were so high on certain players 3 months ago when they were still playing, and then through no fault of their own, they haven't played or anything. They've just done like this. And like Shador, I think is the number one guy based off of his that Sanders swagger. He definitely has that in spades, and I think that pushes some teams away for some. I don't know why, but it pushes some teams away. But I think he would be a automatic face of your franchise just because of what he is and how he does. But our views of him are tempered a little bit because they didn't have an offensive line in Colorado, so he was running for his life for 2 years.
This is the problem. The teams that are going to need a quarterback are teams that, like they're not prepared. They're not prepared for him to excel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like offensively, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they find a guy a vet that can just move the chains, you know what I'm saying? Like they're gonna be okay. The Saints. Oh, you don't want to go there right now.
They just had an offensive lineman retire too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's just an uphill battle for these teams that are in need.
It reminds me of us 2 years ago when we traded all that stuff away, and before we did the draft trade stuff with the Bears, trading off CMC and DJ Moore and all that kind of stuff to the Bears. So when Bryce got here, it's like the Will Smith meme of him standing in the living room and there's nothing left. All the furniture's gone. He's kind of looking around,
just sitting there looking with his hands in his pocket.
Yeah, that would be for now. The Saints, they're old. They still have Kamara, but he's at the back end now. And who's the wide receiver they had that's always hurt?
Michael Thomas, but he's gone now.
He's gone. Yeah, so they're totally rebuilding in New Orleans. I'm not sure what they're doing there. I don't know if you'd want to go there if you're a QB. We got Jackson Dart going to Saints from Ole Miss, which makes a lot of sense. Shador is still on the board, but number 10 is the Chicago Bears, which is where we're going to stop our mock. The Bears, honestly, I could see Jalen Walker going here at 10. If we passed on him at 8 and took Will Johnson, I don't think Walker's going to be up there long. I could see Walker going to the Bears because they've got,
or they get the other tight end.
They got they got Moore and Rome for wide receivers. A tight end would be good for
but
yeah.
But if you go get you a Michigan that receiver, that tight end, long body, tight end from Michigan,
Loveland?
What's his name?
Is it Loveland?
Yeah, him.
For the
because if you're thinking to yourself like, I got a franchise quarterback, I'm gonna give him all the things he needs.
You don't think the Bears might go offensive line to kind of protect Williams?
I mean, didn't they get somebody in free agency?
I'm not sure. Actually, they probably did.
No, they got Darnell Wright at right tackle still, and can't remember who their left tackle was off the top of my head. I don't know why I'm struggling.
I feel like the Bears would do something weird here. Like they would go for like Mikael Williams or something from Georgia at 10. Because at this point, if no one's traded into the top 10 to get a quarterback and you get to the Bears at 10, the teams that need a quarterback are probably content to wait and see if they just fall to them instead of having to trade up to do it, you know? Like the Steelers, they could sit at 21 and maybe still have Sanders still on the board. They might be saying they don't want him, but if he's at 21 and they didn't have to give up anything for him, I can see them drafting Shador at 21. But
I like Walter Nolan here too.
Nolan.
He's going to go earlier than people think.
Defensive tackle on this.
Walter Nolan. Potentially, maybe they do go offensive tackle, and it's Kelvin Banks from Texas.
Do they have the Bears have edge rushers?
They do. They got Montez Sweat. This offseason.
They got him cheap too. They probably
it says here they need safeties, interior defenders, and edge defenders. That's what their needs are.
You know what would the surprise of the top 10 might be right here? Mike Green, Marshall, the edge rusher that we were looking at. I could see if no one's moved up at that point and he's still sitting there. I could see Mike Green going to Chicago and pairing him with Sweat. That would actually work. I know there's some off the field situations or whatever that's been following him around or something to that effect, but yeah.
I don't think it's a huge need for them, but I think Jahad Campbell, Alabama linebacker, could be a pick for them too. But I'd still lean Walter Nolan.
So you got Nolan. I'm looking at, would they get another weapon for Caleb Williams?
I don't think so.
Because like if Ted McMillan's still sitting there at 10, would the Bears just be like, screw it, let's get Ted McMillan and just put now we've got Ted, Rome, DJ Moore as our wide receivers with Caleb Williams? Like,
nah. If they're gonna get another weapon, it would be a tight end. And then I honestly think they just stick to defense for the rest.
I think so too.
Unless Ashton Jeanty fell.
Ashton Jeanty's sitting at 10 and he lands with the Bears. I'm gonna be like, who's responsible for this? Like, what happened? Like, Watts Gentry, what happened? Like, how did he get this far down? And Dallas didn't move up 2 spots to get him. Like, he got all the way to 10 and they didn't offer.
Man, Dallas is asleep at the wheel, man. We
yeah. We know they need help for Dak.
Until they start moving, then I can say I was wrong. But until then,
it's true. It's
I was right.
It's facts. The Cowboys are going to do Cowboy stuff. I guess it don't really matter who the Bears pick. We already got past our pick, so
we could keep this in mind. Ben Johnson, first-year head coach, where he's coming from, Detroit, is all about hard-nosed, winning in the trenches. So it could be Nolan, or they could go and beefing up the offensive line, because I don't know what their long-term view is with Darnell Wright. Obviously, you're not going to take a guard or center here. Again, the problem is, how well can those guys flip to right tackle? Is Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks Jr. capable of doing that? If so, then that's obviously something they would have had to done.
Man, yeah, Will Campbell. Will Campbell's still on the board at 10. I think it's Will Campbell. If Will Campbell's at the board at 10, I think the Bears have to take him to protect your.
As long as he can flip, then yeah.
Yeah, let's put Will Campbell there. OT. I forgot he hadn't been picked yet. And if he gets past the Patriots, I could see them do that. And then they could pick up a running back, or this draft feels like there's going to be a lot of tight ends going midway through the first into the second. So we didn't have a single wide receiver. No, we had Travis Hunter. We had Travis Hunter picked number 2 overall, but we didn't have a wide receiver pick. Yeah, we had half a receiver pick, but we didn't have one picked in the top 10. We only had one quarterback picked in the entire top 10, where last year, how many went? 5, 6, something crazy in the top 10? A lot of them. We only have one. And then we've got, it's a mix of stuff. Well, no, I'm sorry. We got Dart at the Saints at 9. So we had 2 quarterbacks taken in the top 10. A lot of defense. Actually, it's a good mix. You got 2 offensive tackles. You got Mimbu from Missouri going 7 to the Jets. We got Campbell going to the Bears at 10. We said we would rather trade at 8, but if not, Will Johnson, the cornerback, is what we've got mocked on ours for the Panthers at 8. Gentry going to the Raiders at 6. Tyler Warren going 5 to the Jaguars to help out with Trevor Lawrence. Patriots getting Carter at 4 from Penn State. The Giants picking Mason Graham from Michigan at 3. And I think 3 is where the fun begins, because if they don't want Shador and they go past him at 3, all bets are off at that point. Like, because once you get past 3, then it's like, well, how far does Shador fall? And it's really unfair that we're talking about him falling and the draft hasn't started yet. But that's kind of feels like what's going on. That
we're just preparing for like what could happen.
Right, exactly. We're just being.
Well, I
will say this: going back to this, if we were to pick another player, I honestly think the best solution is to trade out.
I do too,
because I like what's his name, Will Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I like him. But there's a kid named Maxwell Hairston.
Yeah, he's a beast. They do.
When you watch him play, you might as well say, "Oh, that's Travis Hunter." You watch it when you cut the film on.
Oh, don't tell me that. No, no.
Only difference is that Travis Hunter is a Heisman, in my opinion.
So you think?
And Travis and Harrison don't play receiver. And so, like,
well, other than that,
there's guys that you can go get, man. I'm just saying, like, this
so
is one of them drafts where you ain't got to force feed. If somebody calls you and they say, "Look, we gonna offer you this," you're gonna say, "All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that.
Morgan voice.
You know what I love about
All
this?
right, I got you.
We put out so many different things here that we kind of covered ourselves, because when we come back next week, we're gonna be like, we told you so.
Yep.
Because like we had
I got
every
it written
single
down.
option.
Every scenario.
Every scenario we've got covered here. We put it all in here. We stayed away from the Ted McMillan smoke. We've stayed away from Shador, cramming Shador in the top 10 somewhere. I think we did pretty good here, actually. I'm curious to see if
the one thing that you just brought up with Hairston, though, makes a ton of sense. And I don't know that it would be at 8. I think that's a little too rich. But even in a trade back scenario, like, I wouldn't be shocked if he goes mid-first round. Like, there's guys all the time that are always projected in the second round that go top 15, top 20.
Yep.
And you're like, what the heck? I mean, heck, even when J.C. Horn was drafted, remember that year, everyone kept saying it's going to be Pat Surtain to the Panthers, Pat Surtain.
Yep.
And then when they said – and when he was still on the board, you're like, oh, it's going to be Surtain. And then J.C. Horn's name came out, and you're like, over Surtain? Like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I won't be shocked if in a trade back they take Hairston in like the 15th, 16th pick.
And you got to also think about, like, what is the right fit for the Carolina Panthers defense, offense, right?
Can't just get
like,
the best.
You can't just – sometimes the best player just won't fit on your team, right? So especially if you're trying to build something special like the Carolina Panthers are trying to do. So, I mean, like, you got a 3-4 defense, and you're going to run a bunch of cover 4, cover 6, zone to man, transition type stuff. So you need smart players that can move. And smart players that can move look like guys that are athletic as all get out, right? Guys that can get fooled once, but be able to recover from it, right? In secondary. But, like, I honestly think you can find these smart players that love football late first round and around the time that we get our second round pick. But if we give up our first round, our eighth pick, we'll get some type of early second round pick.
And that's when we can –
and later first round pick.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I think Dan Morgan ultimately wants to do. He pretty much said it during the press conference last week, but I got to get everybody here. Of course, whenever I say we're going to go about 30 minutes, we end up going about an hour, and that's literally what we did. You know how we do Believe in Panthers, but at 2 Desmond predictions, I want to see if they happen or not outside of the top 10 from based off of what we just did. Omari and Hampton will be a Dallas Cowboy. They will draft him at 12.
That's where I think that's where it makes sense because you have a quarterback, you got a good receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be lanes to run through, and he's going to champion that star.
And you don't have to trade up to get him. He'll be sitting there at 12.
Who's the running back in free agency? I can't even remember now.
Huh?
Who was the running back the Cowboys signed in free agency? I can't even remember.
D's.
I don't know.
D who?
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders.
Yeah,
I was like, I think he came from us. We pretty much traded Rico for whoever it was, right? We don't
They got they also have Javonte Williams. So it's not.
Yeah, they will draft. Amarian would be the number 1.
It could be a situation where they'd be fine with that, but I mean, running backs. That's something that they've got to probably address at some point.
My other prediction: Jalen Milroe goes first round, number 21 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not going to trade up at all. Milroe's still going to be sitting there, and they'll be able to get a guy that's.
And then AA Ron says he's going to play again, and then Milroe will be able to sit back and hang tight.
Yep, sit back and play right. Yeah, so or Rodgers will wait until the end of preseason and be like, "Yeah, now I'm ready to make a decision." And the Steelers. Yeah, the Steelers do. You get to a certain point, the Steelers, they just like, nah, don't talk to us. Like, we're good.
You think he just doesn't want to deal with the off-season training and stuff like that?
I think Bill Parcells said this once, and it's always stuck with me. When a player is talking about retirement, they have already retired. Like, when they start saying, hey, I got a good family life, blah, blah, blah. That's all he was saying on Pat McAfee last week. Like, he basically was saying he was retired. And it sounded like he's trying to get talked into playing again. But at that point, you're already done. Like it's a wrap. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to wait around for him either. So I think Milrose going to be the pick at 21. We got to get out of here. I told Believe we was going to be told it was going to be short, sweet. They should have known better. We went about a full hour, but it was our mock draft episode, and we had to welcome back our brother Schuyler into the fold. We'll have a recap next week, the fallout from the draft. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about and discuss. I'm pretty sure we'll have Schuyler with us next Tuesday as well to kind of go, because we're going to need you for who's this guy that we picked in the 4th round from Wisconsin that nobody's heard of before? You know what I mean? Like that's the episode next week. We're going to be trying to figure out what we got and what we did, and we'll either be marveling over what Dan Morgan did or scratching our heads at whatever Dan Morgan did. But I don't think we're going to do that. I think Dan's got everything.
Everyone loves their draft picks at first, right?
At first, yeah. Everyone starts off 0-0, and then
everyone's got the best draft class.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens. So we're going to get out of here. For Jonathan Stewart, Schuyler Callihan, I'm Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to Believe in Panthers podcast here on Believe Podcast Networks. We will see you after the draft next week with our recap episode. Everybody keep pounding.